here's the chart for job openings. We thought this would collapse. It went down, certainly, as we, I don't want to obsess over macro stuff, but it's still way up there. And so the fact that we can't get people to take these jobs, I don't know, Chamath, what do you think about the employment and participation situation and how that might unlock things? I also wanted to know from you, Chamath, this concept of the Fed is reacting to data just so slowly, and then you have these companies that maybe are more nimble and they have better data than the Fed.
I think that that's a truism, and I don't think anything about that is going to change. I mean, I think we talked about how these folks calculate non-farm payrolls or how they calculate CPI. It's incredibly outdated, right? It's people with clipboards walking around talking to people and checking boxes and filling out forms. Can that change? Probably it could. Will it change? It probably won't. And so they're going to focus on the most simple but most powerful measure that they have, which is controlling the money supply. Kind of what Sachs talked about. So they're going to manipulate the money supply to either put more liquidity in the system, in which case markets go up and asset prices go up, but then inflation goes up, or constrain liquidity, which then causes markets to go down, asset prices to go down, and inflation eventually to go down. The thing that we're facing today when you look at this labor market chart is a couple of things that I think we've talked about before, and I just want to reiterate them, which is you have to remember that we are in this new world order, which is the ex-China world order. And in that, there is no more unitary economy that can do things cheaper, faster, and better globally around the world, right? So we're going to nearshore or onshore all kinds of things that used to be done by the Chinese. They'll sit in Mexico or they'll sit in Central America. Maybe in some cases, they'll sit in Canada, and all of that will feed into the United States. The problem with all of that is that that will keep costs higher because it'll be naturally more inefficient. It will naturally take more money, and that will naturally cause the prices of those things to be higher, which means that terminal inflation, I think, is just roughly higher. As a result, I think that more power, if you will, goes to labor. So in this constant tension that we have in an economy between labor and capital, the people that own the factories or the businesses and the people that run them and work inside of them, we've been in this position where the pendulum has swung so far towards capital, the owners, the shareholders, that all this financial engineering has tremendous upside, right? That's why companies engage in it. But when you show that chart, Jason, what it means is it's just really hard to find people. And so the only way you're going to get people off their butt to go into work, to sit in a chair, to do a job that you need them to do is to pay them more. And in finding that, wages will have to go up. The counterbalance of that is what AI will do, which I think we all agree is...
to say that is the key. Yeah.
Which is massively deflationary. So that is going to be the tension that we're in now for a really long time as we explore this. I don't know if you guys saw today, but Sequoia led a $20 million round in this thing called Harvey.ai.
The legal,
which is like a legal super wizard for law firms.
Yeah, we knew that was coming.
And my partners and I were debating it. And what we thought of was, well, how much do you pay out of the $800 or $1,000 an hour that you charge to Harvey.ai? Maybe you're willing to pay 5% or 10%. But then the reality is that one of the most powerful things it does is it's able to go into Westlaw, find all these cases, and say, yeah, this is germane to the thing that you're working on right now. That's a very useful thing. But the N+1 law firm will also use that tool, and instead of charging $800 an hour, they'll say, we'll charge $600 an hour, and we're still willing to give you 5 or 10%. So I just don't see a world where, on the one hand, physical labor will continue to be more expensive. They'll demand more and more money to do the job that they're asked to do. And the knowledge work will become increasingly more deflationary because so much of it will be automated by AI that those folks will charge less and less. And there's going to be a tension there, and I don't exactly know what's going to happen.
I did a couple of experiments this week. I've been rolling up my sleeves and playing with these tools. It's pretty amazing, and I've been trying to use them for actual tasks in our companies.
What have you learned? What did you do, and what have you learned?
So I got on the OpenAI plugins. Greg, thank you. I sent him my email and he got me onto that. And you can connect it to Zapier. So I have 2 projects I'm working on currently. One of them I was, since I'm raising Launch Fund 4, and I'm actually going out to people, not just taking inbound. I was like, hey, can I get the names of all the major LPs and start doing some research there, put in a table, stuff that Sachs did when he did his blog post. But then I started connecting it with finding people's Twitter handles, finding their LinkedIn profiles. And then the next piece I'm working on is automatically following them, DMing them on Twitter, let's say, or following them on and doing an in message saying, hey, we haven't met. Here's the deal memo for my next fund. Would love to, get together. This is sent from Jason's AI script. I was going to actually tell them, but here's my real email if after you read the summary of the next fund, you want to meet. And then I'm going to pair that, and this is a piece I'm going to probably need a developer to do, with our internal LP database to not email people who are already duplicates. And then inside with newsletters, I have it building a database of every newsletter we've ever sent, the writing style, and then I'm having it go find in real time news stories that we should be including in the newsletters, which I think will make the writers right now a third more productive. But these are things that would cost $40, $50 an hour, $30 an hour for, college educated Americans and Canadians. And I have already figured out, and I'm not a developer anymore, I had to script them. And I'm actually thinking about learning to code again, just so I can do this myself. And so on Saturday, I'm going to do a little coding with a friend of mine and get back up to speed on that. I think about 30% of what knowledge workers do right now is possible. So I put every single person at both companies on ChatGPT-4 and the playground. About 30% of what knowledge workers at both firms can do currently is doable if you can figure out, and this stuff is not perfectly scripted yet. So I've been doing some stuff in travel as well, playing with the kayak interface, Expedia interface, etc., to look at travel planning, and it's pretty good as well. So this is the real deal, folks. I think by the end of this year, 30% of knowledge work could be done by this. And then additionally, on Monday, I went back to work in person, and I hosted our accelerator in person. And then I hosted Founder University in person in the city. The city was absolutely dead. But we had 100 people fly in from around the world for our Founder University, and a lot of them are working on AI projects. And what's very interesting is there's this big debate going on, Friedberg, between, is this going to be built into ChatGPT-4 or Bard or Poe or whatever it is? Or should I even bother? So should I bother building, a verticalized app? And it turns out, I think you should do the verticalized app. And you're going to be able to put together multiple of these AIs that have different specialities. So I'm super stoked about it. But I do think if you're not using this, if you hear my voice right now and you're a white collar worker, a knowledge worker, and you're not using this year and getting up to speed on it, I think you'll be out of a job within the next 2.
Jeez. Wow.
I just don't think you'll compete. It would be like trying to compete without knowing how to use Microsoft Office 20 years ago, right? Could you work and not know email? Remember when we came into the workforce 30 years ago and some people knew Office and email and web research and then other people didn't? Those other people retired. They were phased out. If you didn't know how to use a computer and type and use an Excel spreadsheet or do a PowerPoint, you were done.
I think there's 2 possible ways you can interpret what you're saying. So in terms of the economic impact. So one is that you could say, well, AI is going to do 30% of the knowledge work, therefore 30% of the knowledge workers are going to be put out of work. I think that a different way to put it would be every knowledge worker can get 30% more work done.
Correct.
So if that's the case, then they're more productive. And we're just talking about the problem of how do you increase real wages in the economy without having inflation? Well, the way to do that is for every worker to be more productive. So if every worker is 30% more productive, in theory, their wages should be able to go up by up to 30%. That's how you get wage growth. Now, maybe there will be some companies that don't need all those employees because now they're able to get, a third more done. But there will be other companies who can hire them. They can go off and do other jobs for other companies, especially when you've got this backlog of, like you said, 8 or 10 million new, jobs that are unfilled.
Yeah, those jobs are all service, though. They're not.
You're acting like
collar.
we're going to have this big group of knowledge workers where there's just nothing for them to do.
Oh, no.
I just don't.
I agree with you, but I think there's going to be a group of knowledge workers who do not embrace this and do not make the transition because it's going to require an upskilling. I think you're actually going to need to know how to do some basic programming and coding